The newest COVID-19 stimulus proposal has been revealed, and it's notably missing a major campaign promise from Democrats. That would be a raise in the wage to $15 an hour. So now President Joe Biden and the White House have caved to demands from Joe Manchin to keep the wages low. Right now, if we don't pass a minimum wage increase, the federal minimum wage stays at about $7.25 an hour. Now, the dropping of this provision from Biden's stimulus bill follows the advice of the unelected Senate parliamentarian. She gave her opinion that the proposal would not be eligible under special rules called budget reconciliation. Now, this is an opinion that Democrats could decide to ignore. They could ignore this. They could say, okay, budget parliamentarian, good for you. We appreciate your opinion, but, you can go somewhere else. We can either ignore you or we can do what Republicans did back when they tried to pass tax cuts for the rich. Their Senate budget parliamentarian said, no, you can't do that via reconciliation. Well, Republicans said, okay, you're fired. And then we're going to bring on somebody who does agree with us. Now, Democrats don't have to go nuclear and fire, but they could say, well, we appreciate your input, but we don't agree. And we're going to put this into reconciliation anyway, especially since a simple majority vote could mean that they make the rules. So, of course, they would have to pressure Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin and rein them in. I'm sure that they have different levers and ways to be able to do that, but that's what they would have to do. So this is understandable. You can't really blame Republicans for this one. This is basically Democrats not being able to get their house into order. So, and that's a problem. So now, as a result of this, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took Twitter to pan this decision to the bill that House Democrats had already passed, which included the raise. So this already passed the House, no problem. The majority of Democrats in the House of Representatives have said, yes, absolutely, we can do this. We don't have a Senate budget parliamentarian, and we have a clear majority. It's a slim majority, but we have a clear majority. We can get this done. And they did. And then it went to the Senate, where Democrats do have technically a majority, 50-50, at least, because of the two independents that caucus with the Democrats, Sanders and King. And then you have Vice President Kamala Harris, who said that she is in support of a $15 minimum wage. And so we shouldn't have any problem corralling the two wayward senators, being able to give them something in return for allowing this vote. Unfortunately, that did not happen whatsoever. And so now AOC goes to Twitter. Here's what she says. It's utterly embarrassing that pay people enough to live is a stance that is even up for debate. Override the parliamentarian, raise the wage. And then she offers an example using Denmark. McDonald's workers in Denmark are paid $22 an hour plus 6 weeks of paid vacation. $15 an hour is a deep compromise, a big one considering the phase-in. Now, the phase-in would be over 5 years, so 2025. So now, immediately, if this were to go in, the House version, it would be passed. It would go, we would get an immediate raise to $11 an hour. And then over the next 4 years until 2025, an additional $1. And so now, the phase-in is fairly long, especially considering that really, if all things considered, productivity had caught up to wages, we'd actually be making like $23 an hour for a minimum. And so, hey, that's too fast for a lot of people. So we settled on $15 an hour for right now. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, this has sparked another conversation because she used a Denmark example, and a lot of people were not happy about that. So now Denmark is a country that is capitalist. Okay, let me just get that out there. They're a capitalist country. They're social democracy, basically. They've got strong social safety nets, labor unions, strong labor rights, very generous welfare state. They're a suck dem country. And so that's good, right? In some respects, it's good. In other respects, not as good. Now, one of the things that's maybe not as good is they pay higher taxes. Now, I don't mind that because you actually get things for your tax money. For example, you get, healthcare, you get education, you get, generally taken care of if you can't work. And so you pay taxes for that and you get stuff in return. I know it's an amazing concept that we haven't quite mastered here in America because, it's better. It's better than America because what we do is essentially we pay taxes to allow giant corporations to get away with not paying taxes. And so, a lot of us, we don't see the benefit from, paying our taxes. And of course, there's a lot of invisible things that taxes go to pay for that do benefit us. But, generally when it comes to things like healthcare, education, all those additional costs that are weighing down the American people, well, we would like some of our tax money to be able to go to that. So, but anyway, now Danes actually pay about an extra 19 cents for every dollar in taxes compared to Americans. But for that, free healthcare, education, subsidized high-quality preschool, very strong social safety net, and very low levels of poverty, homelessness, crime, and inequality. So that's a pretty good deal as far as capitalist countries go. All right. Now, McDonald's workers in Denmark do make about $22 an hour. So now they actually don't, though, have a minimum wage. They don't have minimum wage laws. Now, why is that? How is it that they have such a high wage for McDonald's workers when they don't have a minimum wage? Well, the easy answer to that, of course, is that again, they have very, very strong labor unions. Okay. So they have these unionized, these trade unions that make sure that people who work in these industries actually get paid and can live good lives, as well as, other benefits. So now conservatives only jump on the one part. They say, oh, they don't have a federal minimum wage, which means, since they don't have a federal minimum wage, we should get rid of our minimum wage here, and then we could be as good as Denmark. But they leave out, of course, all the labor union stuff, all the pro-worker stuff. They don't have to mandate it because of the strength of the labor movement. If we had a strong labor movement here, then we could actually do something like that. But unfortunately, if we did what Republicans wanted to and abolished the minimum wage right now, what would happen is that you would have a race to the bottom almost overnight. And I'll tell you pretty much how I think it would go. Southern states and low-wage states already, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, a lot of these states would crash. Their wages would go down to like $2 an hour. And I'm just throwing out numbers. They would go down pretty far, whereas states like California and New York would relatively stay stable, $15 an hour. Okay. And so now that already, and the reason I can throw that out is because this already happens to an extent here in this country because we don't have a labor union, right? We don't have a strong labor movement in this country. And so you have states that are still operating close to the federal minimum wage of $7.25 anyway. And then some states that have, that have more representation, more stronger labor unions, things like that, have higher wages. And so that's what we have. Now, again, the problem here is that unlike in Denmark, which is a high standard of cost of living, but high wages and benefits to balance it out, what we have in America is a high cost of living, but wages that are too low. Plus a lack of benefits, by the way. You tell me any intro job, any like low wage job that offers benefits like healthcare, you're not gonna find a lot. You're not gonna find any, basically. Even some of the good jobs no longer have retirement benefits, no longer have affordable healthcare. All right, and so that's a problem. We get all the bad, but none of the good. It's a terrible deal for workers. And to go along with that, one of the worst arguments against raising the wage is that prices will go up, when we don't see that. Right now, prices have already continued to increase without any sort of wage increases. Whereas, again, the Nordic countries, where they have higher wages, you really don't see a huge result of those wage increases. And prices actually are pretty similar to what you find here in America. The average price of a Big Mac in Denmark is actually around $5.15 compared to the $4.80 in the United States. Again, that is an average. Obviously, different states, different cities, have different prices, but generally it kind of averages out to about those numbers. And it's not really different between the countries. And so on average, it's not that much more expensive for Danes, but Danish workers actually do so much better compared to America. And so it's a strange concept, I know, for people to understand that McDonald's could pay you enough for you to live on. But it's true. I mean, whatever happened to work being work? Isn't work supposed to be work? Isn't the dignity, like Republicans always tell us about the dignity of work? About, oh, if you just bootstraps, if you just go get a damn job, then you can actually make something of yourself. And then when you do, no, not that one. Okay, but we make the food, we, clean the restaurants, we make sure to serve you, we do all of that stuff. And you're saying that stuff is less important than somebody that's moving around numbers all day on a spreadsheet. Come on. So, as I said before, a lot of conservatives jumped on this and went after AOC. With the normal things, calling her dumb and she's uneducated. Again, she's got an economics degree, so she does understand how it works. And they say, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't know that Denmark didn't have a minimum wage. I'm smart. You were dumb." Well, again, they have really strong trade unions. I would, what? The whole reason that the Danish government didn't have to go in and mandate a minimum wage in the first place is because they had these labor unions, a strong labor movement. We need a strong labor movement in this country. And had we not had union buster Ronald Reagan and the Republican Party essentially turn its back on labor. And later on, of course, the Democrats effectively doing the same thing by not supporting labor and not defending unions as much as they should, we would actually have maybe a labor union that probably would have been able to bargain for higher wages, and we wouldn't be doing so badly as we are now as members of the working class. I would take what they've done in Denmark over, what we have here, and understand that the Nordic model does have flaws. It is based on capitalism, and as such, capitalism is inherently based on exploitation of, countries that are less wealthy. The things that we're doing in Africa is just disastrous. The stuff that we're doing, the exploitation. But understand that, these Nordic countries, they at least are able to take care of the people that live there. And again, I don't agree with everything that especially Denmark is doing when it comes to immigration and things like that. But generally, they do know how to take care of themselves. And in this country, we should also be able to do that. Okay? And what they're doing over there is a lot better than what we're doing here. And maybe, maybe we should adopt some of those social democratic policies in order to make things a little bit better here. But of course, they won't do that because, well, money in politics, number of billionaires, all that stuff. And so what we're going to continue to do, unfortunately, unless we change that and change our government, is, well, we're going to continue to deal with the things that we're doing. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.